Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life a drag. The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
Bill Maher just dropped his fiery 2 cents on the media circus, and the result was nothing short of explosive fireworks. Maher, a dyed-in-the-wool leftist, turned his sharp wit against the woke crowd, torching them for their cowardly refusal to step up and actually face off with centrists and conservatives. The takedown wasn't soft, it was brutal, and every jab landed with force. Trust me, this wasn't just commentary, it was a demolition in real time. So without wasting another second, let's dive straight into the storm that Maher unleashed.
You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist think that the left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you. Yeah. That attitude, and like all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude. No, again, I didn't vote for them.
Bill Maher just unleashed one of his most brutally honest submissions yet. And from the way it sounded, he's inching closer and closer to the political center. For years, Maher stood as a reliable voice for the left, but even he can't turn a blind eye to what's happening anymore. He points out that the modern left has abandoned the art of real debate entirely. Instead of engaging, they hide away in their safe bubbles and echo chambers, shutting themselves off from reality while pretending everything is fine. Maher's frustration is undeniable. How can progress ever be made when one side refuses to even acknowledge opposing arguments? It's a wake-up call the left desperately needs, but tragically continues to ignore.
He sat here, he's a human being, he's not a monster.
And a husband and a father.
Yes, and I liked him. I liked them all. They're all nice people when you meet them in person, and they're not as crazy as they would, nobody's as crazy as they make them out to be.
And that right there is Maher's biggest problem with today's left: the instant demonization of anyone bold enough to disagree. Question their policy, and suddenly you're branded a monster. Challenge their narrative, and you're immediately painted as a dictator. Push back even slightly, and congratulations, you're now labeled a fascist. This knee-jerk labeling doesn't just shut down conversation, it poisons it completely. Instead of allowing space for healthy and meaningful debate, the left creates cartoonish caricatures of their opponents, making it easier to vilify rather than engage. The end result is a culture where the right becomes an open target for unhinged attacks from those who simply cannot handle real dialogue. Only cheap name-calling and hollow outrage.
Pressing enough, having just had a birthday and being 66. Please don't ask me to start doing grown-up things like run for president. A few weeks ago, Fox News' Dana Perino, a former Bush press secretary, suggested that the Democrats should recruit me to run for president, which is kind of special because it means that in the space of 20 years, Bush press secretaries have gone from telling me I need to watch what I say.
They need to watch what they say, watch what they do, and this is not a time for remarks like that. There never is.
They've gone from that to wondering if I should run for president.
It'll be interesting to see if Bill Maher is recruited to run for the presidency.
Bill Maher might never openly admit it, but a huge portion of his views already overlap with right-leaning ideology. Sure, he still wears the badge of a liberal, But once you cut through the noise, his critiques of cancel culture, woke extremism, and the suffocating intolerance of the left echo far more with conservatives than with progressives. That's why some commentators and journalists are now openly speculating what a Maher run for office could actually look like, especially if it came under the Republican banner. Just imagine the spectacle. A lifelong liberal suddenly embraced as a political weapon by the very side he once battled against. The irony is staggering, and the possibility has people buzzing with shock and fascination.
I have many flaws, but you can't accuse me of maturing. Let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days.
The whole point of life is to grow, mature, and evolve into wiser individuals. Every one of us has held beliefs or positions that, with time and experience, no longer make sense or fit reality. And that's perfectly natural. True growth means adapting, questioning ourselves, and grounding our ideas in common sense. But here's the problem. The modern left seems completely stagnant. Instead of evolving, they cling to rigid, outdated, and often anti-common sense ideals that no longer hold weight. Even worse, they refuse to engage with anyone outside their bubble or concede even the smallest point. While the rest of society learns, adapts, and becomes more grounded, they remain frozen in denial, stuck in the past and terrified of change.
Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship, where if I keep it real about the nonsense in the Democratic Party, it makes me an instant hero to Republicans. The same thing happened in reverse to Darth Vader's daughter, Liz Cheney, who is now a hero to liberals simply because she recognizes Biden did not steal the last election. What a sad commentary.
It's almost laughable how allergic liberals are to criticism. The second you dare to hold up a mirror to their flaws, they don't stop to reflect. Instead, they throw a tantrum and shut you down like you've committed a crime. Just ask Bill Maher. For decades, he was their loudest cheerleader, proudly waving the progressive flag. But the moment he started poking holes in their sacred woke ideologies, suddenly he wasn't a hero anymore. He was enemy number one. That's the left's playbook. Worship you when you obey, crucify you when you question. So much for tolerance and open-mindedness. It all goes out the window the second you stop chanting their script.
Simply acknowledging reality is now seen as a profile in courage. People sometimes say to me, you didn't used to make fun of the left as much. Yeah, because they didn't give me so much to work with. The oath of office I took was to comedy. And if you do goofy shit, wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm going to make fun of you because that's where the gold is. And the fact that they are laughing at it should tell you something. It rings true.
The left loves to brag about being the so-called party of sanity. But let's be honest, those days are long gone. At this point, even pure madness sounds more refreshing than the circus they're running. Just look around. Screaming matches dressed up as debates, endless purity tests, and a cancel culture so vicious it devours its own faster than a swarm of piranhas. And here's the twist. A few brave leftists are finally whispering what the rest of us already know. The movement has gone completely toxic. Even Gavin Newsom, the golden boy of California progressivism, has admitted the obvious. The left desperately needs a deep scrub, a full-on detox, maybe even an exorcism. When your own poster children are begging for sanitizing wipes, you know the rot has gone too far. Yet despite drowning in their own mess, they'll still lecture the rest of us on morality, pretending to be the enlightened ones.
When normal people read that San Francisco has basically legalized shoplifting, they think Democrats have gone nuts. They think, you know, that Ted Cruz guy seems like a real stiff, but at least he believes in the concept of shopping with money.
Democrats seem to have a bizarre talent. If something is abnormal, destructive, or downright stomach-turning, they'll find a way to legalize it, normalize it, and then parade it around as if it's progress. Take shoplifting, for example. In city after city, they've practically turned theft into a free pastime. Penalties have been lowered so much that criminals can stroll out of stores with armfuls of goods, while hard-working business owners are left helpless and furious. And then there's homelessness. Instead of fixing the crisis, Democrats normalize it, transforming sidewalks into sprawling tent cities and calling it compassion. But with those tents come filthy streets littered with needles, trash, and human waste, all under the banner of tolerance. Ordinary Americans are expected to smile and pretend this chaos is noble, when in truth, it's the collapse of common sense. Democrats don't solve problems. They rebrand disasters as justice and dare you to disagree.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF. Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration, declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral, and now an emoji for pregnant men. Real. I'm not making it up.
The Democrats have turned themselves into every comedian's dream punchline. And honestly, they've earned it. Their policies are so absurd, you'd think they were writing late-night monologues themselves. Just look at their brilliant idea of defunding the police, because nothing screams progress like stripping law enforcement while crime skyrockets. Who needs safety, right? Let's just roll out the red carpet for chaos and watch the nation spiral into a scene straight out of Mad Max. And then there's their beloved cancel culture, the crown jewel of their madness. Supposedly, it's about justice, but in reality, it's nothing more than a glorified witch hunt that's ruined careers, silenced voices, and turned social media into a firing squad. The destruction it's caused is beyond words, yet Democrats parade it around like it's noble. At this rate, they don't even need comedians to roast them. They're already doing a flawless job of self-parody.
California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. A non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough? We need a law for that? Do you have to inject yourselves into everything? From where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair? This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules. Regulation.
If there's one thing California has mastered, it's the art of suffocating overregulation. This state doesn't just govern. It micromanages every last detail of your life. Want to start a business? Get ready for a mountain of permits, endless licenses, and red tape so thick it could make even the IRS jealous. Want to drive your car? Better hope it meets the ever-changing emission standards dreamed up by bureaucrats who probably couldn't tell a wrench from a hammer. And housing? Even the roof over your head is buried under codes, zoning laws, and regulations that send costs into the stratosphere. That's why building anything in California takes years of paperwork and a fortune in fees, if you even get approval at all. Sacramento doesn't just poke its nose into your life, it shoves its whole head in. And then they wonder why people are fleeing the state in droves.
Regulation should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching. Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that. But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person. Making sure that everything bad never happens again, which you can never fully do. It just makes everyone else's life a drag.
Maher drops another devastating truth bomb. You don't improve society by piling rules on top of rules. That's not progress. It's suffocation. You can't police every word, every thought, and every action, then expect people to thrive in a dynamic culture. The more restrictions you stack, the more lifeless and predictable society becomes. Creativity doesn't grow under constant surveillance. It withers away. Human expression isn't meant to be micromanaged. It's meant to breathe, to take risks, to push boundaries. Yet today's obsession with overregulation and political correctness is stripping away the very spark that makes us human. Instead of inspiring greatness, it breeds conformity and fear. Instead of bold debate and innovation, we get dull repetition and self-censorship. Maher is right. When you crush freedom in the name of control, you don't create a better society. You create a brittle, joyless, and boring one.
The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
At the end of the day, Bill Maher has become something the modern left simply can't handle. Honest. He's not afraid to call out hypocrisy, even if it means turning against his own side. That's why his words land with such crushing force. Maher reminds us that true growth comes from questioning ourselves, evolving our beliefs, and engaging in real debate, not from hiding in echo chambers or slapping labels on anyone who disagrees. His critiques expose the absurdity of trying to build a better society by stacking rules on top of rules, choking creativity, and silencing voices in the process. Whether he admits it or not, Maher now resonates more with the center, and even the right, than with the rigid left he once championed. And maybe that's the greatest irony of all. The man once hailed as a liberal icon now stands as living proof that common sense transcends political labels. And this brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button and subscribe for more fiery takedowns just like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.